Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys have had an absolutely amazing December so far. I can't believe it's almost Christmas time. I'm so happy that classes are finally done and I've had a chance to just catch my breath and relax and just like come off the high that was first term and come up from the low that was also first term. Today's video is the third video of my 4-part series all about UBC's personal profile. The prompt that I will be addressing in today's video is: tell us about 1 or 2 activities listed above that are most important to you. Please explain the role you played and what you learned in the process. So, without further ado, let's jump into today's video. If you haven't already, feel free to check out the other 2 videos that I've already posted. The first one is about who you are. Haha, yes. And then I've also got another video talking about what's important to you and why. I figured that I would film these videos, this little series for you guys, because I know how much I struggled with writing my personal profile, and sometimes it's just nice to hear what other people have to say. This series is meant to help you answer the questions. It's not meant to give you the answers to the questions. It is a personal profile. Personal's in the title. Prior to this prompt, you're supposed to go through about 5 activities that were important to you and briefly describe each of them. Based on those 5 activities, you're supposed to pick either 1 or 2 and base this response off of them. Really quickly, just so you guys kind of have an idea of what my response is all about, the 5 activities that I listed and briefly described were Model United Nations, the Constituency Youth Council, musical theater, as well as my place of work and my involvement in athletics within my community. So for me personally, I chose to only talk about 1 activity. I specifically chose to focus on talking about theater. In only talking about 1 activity, I was able to thoroughly address the prompt. I was able to elaborate and go into detail, and I had so much to say about this anyways because it was a really cool experience and a really cool opportunity. I'll just give you a little bit of a backstory really quick here. In grade 11, I was approached by a group of grade 12 students. They were a part of my stagecraft program. They asked me if I would be interested in joining their startup theater company, and this was something that they were really passionate about, and I'm like, okay, cool, like why not? This will be super fun. It's over the summer. This is a great way to take what I've learned in school and apply it outside of school, and it's something that I genuinely enjoy. Let me jump into my actual response before I bore you guys to death. So without further ado, let's jump into the response. So I started by saying, imagine being approached by a group of senior students asking if I would be interested in joining their startup company. So right out the gate, I've already told them exactly what this is going to be about. And I think a really big thing that kind of gets lost on some people when they're writing their personal profile is being direct. So after that, I said, as a part of my high school stagecraft and musical theater program, I had worked closely with many of them before and had developed a mutual interest in further pursuing our shared passion for theater. Just make sure that you're being very direct in the beginning and then kind of supporting it with 1 fluffy sentence that helps to paint that picture. Based on that, I then said, being the general manager, my responsibilities pertained to. Very simply, I just stated what my role was, and then I went on to list some of the things that I had to do. That wasn't what the focus of this response was for me. It wasn't being like, oh, this is what I did. It was more so focusing on what I learned from this role. I then went on to say, with little previous experience, this role pushed me to quickly learn and develop critical leadership and managerial skills. I'm not really going into much detail. I'm just like, okay, this is what I learned. This is why I chose to only focus on 1 thing, because at this point, leaving it at just being like, oh yes, I learned critical leadership and managerial skills. Okay, yes, cool. You want the reader to be like, oh, okay, like this is what they learned. This is where they're taking it. But if you cut it off right there and then move on to talk about something else, then you're kind of missing out on explaining everything and giving the reader the opportunity to really understand what you're saying. At this point, I went into a little bit more detail regarding what this experience was like and what the activity itself involved. I then went on to say, producing a play in a short 3 months demanded that I work cohesively with my team and overcome challenges efficiently. There is no doubt that working with different personalities while learning about my new job under pressure was stressful. My continual motivation to overcome these challenges was knowing I would have been part of bringing our vision to life. I'm going to read some of the key ideas, pardon the choppiness of the next 2 minutes. Just ignore it, please. My experience as the manager of Coffee House Theatre was nothing short of empowering. Working with teenagers towards a common goal, I learned how to engage, collaborate, and communicate with unique individuals and diverse theatrical fields. Knowing what it takes to run a production both logistically and fundamentally, and how to overcome unforeseen challenges has taught me valuable problem solving and interpersonal skills. Personally, I've come to recognize the undeniable importance of perseverance, having a support network, and the power of working with an equally motivated team. This response was actually, at least for me, one of the easier ones to write. I knew what I was passionate about. I knew that I had so much to share about this one activity. But anyways, that is pretty much it for what I said in this response specifically. Really quickly, before we wrap up this video, I just want to kind of sum up some general tips that might help you guys write this one, because I totally recognize that it's not necessarily easy for everybody. So my very first tip when it comes to writing this response specifically is pick something that you are actually passionate about. It's a lot easier to write about something that you're excited to write about, that you have fond memories of, and whether that means that you were working towards something or you were working for a cause, whatever that looks like, pick something that motivates and excites you. Tip number 2 for this response, pre-plan your response a little bit and look at what the question is really asking you. If you want to talk about 2 activities, then take the time to plan out each. Focus on the really important things, because if you're going to write about 2, that cuts your word count in half and gives you half the opportunity to explain each of them in detail. Tip number 3, create a little bit of a mind map if you want. Take the time to really think about what you learned and take the time to integrate that into your response. From here, you're able to really see everything. That was one thing that really helped me out. When I was struggling, I would write these things out and I would draw arrows connecting them to what I wanted to say. Tip number 4, the last tip that I have for you guys, is start high level and then narrow your focus. This approach works best for me. This is what I really like to do. If you find it much easier to start super focused and then kind of branch out and develop your ideas from there, go for it. Do whatever you gotta do. But for me, it makes a lot more sense to kind of start with the bigger picture and then kind of pick out the key ideas from there and then focus your response based off of those. Anyways, that is pretty much it for today's video. I hope you found it a little bit helpful. If you haven't already, feel free to check out the other 2 videos that I've posted about telling UBC about who you are and telling UBC about what's important to you and why. Feel free to email me if you do have any questions. I love replying to your emails and answering your questions. If you want to, give this video a good old like, feel free to subscribe, and if you wanted to, you could leave a comment. I also love replying to those. I just love talking to you guys, honestly. I will see you in my next video, which will be the last video of this 4-part series. Thanks for watching, you guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye!